Hello, 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 everybody. I hope all is well. I'm your hostess, Madam Hellfire. We're back once again for Halls of Horror of the true crime variety. And as with my true crime, I always have my partner in crime, Nox Archive. How you doing, buddy?
I think the butler did it.
Was it in the study with the candlestick?
With the yeah, it was in the study, but it wasn't with the candlestick. It was with a broom.
No. Murder! Anyways, hello, everybody. We've got Spectre in the chat, and we've got Jacob Gold City Navo in the chat. Welcome, guys. I know I say that a lot, but I'm a little bit brain dead from a lot of work. Hey, what's up, Snoopy? I'm a little bit of brain dead from a lot of stuff being done today, so just don't mind me. Don't mind me. So Andrew Cunanan, huh? Is that what we're doing? Versace?
Yeah.
So why
I
did you want
picked
to do
Andrew-
this one in particular?
Cause, well, I actually listened to a last podcast on the left of fucking live podcast about it, and I thought, actually, I want to look into this more.
Fair enough.
So I figured, hey, I'll talk about it.
Why not? Fair
Because-
enough.
This dude looks kind of meh. He's very mid.
Yeah.
You actually look at him, he looks like he doesn't look like a killer. He looks like a dude who would sell you car insurance.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he stands out at all. He's a lot like James Corden. He's not really that funny.
Yeah. Let's let me see if I can find a image for everybody. Andrew.
And yes, by the way, I am going to make as many James Corden jokes from now on as possible.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
I'll
get
let
you.
it go sooner or later.
All right, let's get a picture for this guy up on the screen. Save to my desktop. Go ahead and entertain the chat while I fix this up a little bit.
Okay, well, I'll just say what I have coming up. I have True Crime Wednesdays coming up, where I'm going to talk about the Idaho 6 and the Delphi murders. On Saturday, I'm going to be doing a stream with my friend Ray called Winter is Coming, where we're going to pick on WoW, or I'm going to pick on World of Warcraft, and she's going to kill me for it.
Nice.
And that is Andrew Cunanan.
Mm-hmm. That is our fun little person of the day. I mean that very sarcastically, by the way.
Yeah.
For me, doing the usual. I'm hoping that on Tuesday I can do a Resident Evil stream and finish the Resident Evil 4 remake. I just released part 9 of the Pokemon Infinite Fusion Nuzlocke on my secondary channel. The new Cafe and Diner Archives video will be up for the public tomorrow afternoon. And I'm hoping to have recorded the Cryptid Iceberg audio by the end of tonight or tomorrow so that I can edit that and have it up next weekend for everybody.
I'm hoping that next week when I do my Christmas stream, that I can either have Minxie or Spectre on. So if you guys can, please bully them to actually answer me.
I mean, Spectre's
Bully
in
with
the
love.
chat. Bully Minxie. Spectre's here.
I know. Bully Minxie with love.
Yeah, Bully Teabagger with love.
So, I'll be on and off the stream as I can feel the meds kick in.
Yeah, you've got your face all swollen up and full of... He's in Vicodin land. He had his wisdom tooth removed.
Yeah.
I
Last time I
remember
was
that.
on Vicodin, I just kept looking at everything that was blue and just going, that is so blue.
that Vicodin land is a fun place. I definitely had a good time with Vicodin land, except when I woke up, I almost threw up on my dad.
Well, it's fun, but at the same time, I kept thinking, Dr. House makes this look way easier than what it actually is.
Don't do drugs, okay, kids?
Yeah. But shall I start?
Yes, please do. Oh, wait. Before we do, there is a possibility for a project coming next year and on the secondary channel. It's been brought to my attention that somebody from the community, that y'all are very, very familiar with, would like to do a soul-linked Nuzlocke. Hey, 07's in the chat for Pidgey. Thank you for the generous 5 gifted memberships. I appreciate it quite a lot.
Pidgey just like is lurking today. I swear, I didn't even know he was here.
He's a lurky McLurkerson. I'm doing great, but if you're
I'm still salty about James Corden, Pidgey.
I would be too if I got my stuff struck down. But what I was saying is that I have an idea in the ether of doing a Soul Link Pokemon Nuzlocke on the secondary channel with somebody that everybody in the chat is very familiar with. I'm not gonna say whomst because I do not wish to hunker them down. We are not 100% on if it's gonna happen or not, but it has been brought to my attention by said person, and I've reached out to ask how they want to go about doing it and when they want to go about doing that. So keep your eyes open. I will announce it if it is locked in, and it's gonna be fun. Anywhoomst, go right ahead, man.
Like I said, this dude just looks like your average guy on the street. Looks like he sells insurance. Looks like he has no particular talent whatsoever. Yet this man was able to kill Gianni Versace, as well as, I can't remember how many, because it's been a while since I did these notes. But we're going to figure it out together. The power of togetherness.
Togetherness.
Anyways. What?
Togetherness.
Yeah. When's on my willpower? Anyways. This guy had also the ability to basically blend in with the crowd. And we're going to get into some of the more fucked up things about his personality later. Because he kind of had a habit of creating aliases. And some of them are out there, I'll just say that. So first, Andrew Cunanan was born on August 31st, 1969 in National City, California, which I have no idea where that is.
Yikes. I don't know.
His parents are Modesto, his parents were Modesto and Marianne. Andrew was of Filipino and Italian descent, though he could pull off looking like he is Hispanic. And that's going to come into play later. And Modesto had this thing where he just really wanted to be American, so he kind of called himself Pete a lot. And he told people to call him Pete. But I'm going to call him Modesto.
That's very odd. But was his middle name Tyr and his last name Griffin?
I wish. This guy is actually an asshole too, by the way.
Oh, I would imagine.
Modesto was in the Navy when Andrew was born, and he was actually sent to Vietnam. When he came back from Vietnam, he became a stockbroker. But he also was a con man. In 1988, for example, he evaded arrest for embezzlement by fleeing to the Philippines. But we're not talking about Modesto, but he does come up a little bit in these notes. But as a teen, Andrew had one particular habit that kind of we all have, but he took it to the next level, and that is telling tall tales. Because let's face it, when we're teenagers, we'll come up with anything to try to impress people. It's like, yeah, my mom is going to get me a Mustang GT when I turn 16. Shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, this dude would tell tales like his family was wealthy due to being in the banana shipping business, which is very specific if you think about it.
I wonder if he was seeing Deo all the time.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where he was shipping bananas from.
Man, I don't know.
He also claimed that as a teenager, as roughly 13 or 14 years old, that he had stocks in Coca-Cola.
You have to be at least 18 to have a stock account, I'm pretty sure.
You're pretty much. But here's, really quickly, I have to do a disclaimer. There's going to be sensitive topics talked about in this that involve things that Chris Hansen would investigate, as well as murder and other things.
So PDF files.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got
it.
When he was underage, when he was a teenager, he had a habit of seeking out older white men who are wealthy and having liaisons with them. In fact, according to him, he lost his virginity at age 13 by another kid.
Oh.
But the whole entire sugar daddy thing kind of is a thing that is a constant throughout Andrew's life. Back from when he was a teenager all the way till he's an adult. He always had these wealthy old men that he would kind of court, and they would end up giving him money for sex, basically.
Do we
you
want
know, a sugar daddy.
He definitely looks like a flamboyant person. There's some pictures of this guy that are rather interesting that I've found. Let's remove the mugshot for a second and pull up pictures of him normally. He definitely looks like the type that's a bit flamboyant, which is not a bad thing, but
No.
As somebody who is a part of the LGBTQ community, sometimes you have a radar that kind of just goes off. And mine did when I saw pictures of this guy. Because I'm not the most familiar with his case, but I kind of had a feeling, and my radar went off pretty hard seeing this picture. I'm not going to put it on very long.
That might actually be one of the ones from something I'll get into later, but he was in the Philippines for a while. He lived in the Philippines for like a year.
Yeah, but I can kind of tell that he would probably look for sugar daddies with that kind of picture.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
I'm not going to go into the sugar daddies because they really don't matter at all.
No, it just kind of puts it in perspective the sort of things that he was into, I would say. You don't need to get like deep dive in it, but it's a good idea to give like the background of it.
Yeah, there's this, in summary, the best way to explain it is he would court somebody, they would become his sugar daddy, then he would annoy the fuck out of them until they would pay him to go away. That was the cycle.
Interesting.
Because he also had a really annoying personality. And I'll get more into that later because there's an interesting story with it. But this dude had an IQ of 147, which is pretty high.
Smart. But also keep in mind, a lot of very smart people can turn out to be serial killers because there's a disconnect with empathy and accessing human emotions when you have such a high IQ or high level of intelligence. Just want to point that out there. I have not. No.
I have. I did one in high school. My IQ is 135.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, and I'm not a psychopathic serial killer. Yay!
I said that there's a possibility, and you'll notice that a lot of them can be. Like Ted Bundy had a really high IQ. Who else did? A lot. I just can't think of everybody off the top of my head.
Is this one transportation secretary? No, she's not a transportation secretary.
No.
But this dude also had delusions of grandeur. He really thought that he should be remembered for something. He thought he was destined to be remembered and to be famous, and he kind of is right, but in all the wrong ways.
So he's a narcissist.
And he was very much a narcissist. was very self-centered, very annoying, and he always preyed when he would go out. He would always prey on people of high society, either celebrities or, like I said, the sugar daddy thing. He would want to be around those people, but he wasn't a rich kid. He was a middle class kid.
Yeah.
But he also had a darker side, and this is the first instance of him showing his darker side was at age 19, when he struck his mother after an argument which pretty much came out of nowhere. He threw her against the wall and dislocated her shoulder.
Never touch moms. Never, ever touch moms. Ever. Not like that.
It was also at age 19 that his father, Modesto, left for the Philippines. And here's how much of a piece of shit Modesto was. Modesto sold the home without telling his wife and then used the money to go to the Philippines.
That's so fucked up. That's fucked up on every level.
And Andrew, worshiping his fucking dad, took his dad's side.
Why am I not surprised?
He also left the country at age 19 and moved in with his father in the Philippines, thinking that his father went from a small fish in a big pond to a big fish in a small pond, where they would live a lavish lifestyle in the Philippines. Problem is, they were dirt poor and living in a shack without a fucking floor in it.
Yikes.
Yeah, he went from middle class to poverty.
Sounds not fun, bro.
Nah, and he thought he was better than poverty. He thought he was better than poor people, so he decided to hatch a plan to get back to the United States. And this is another disclaimer. I don't know how to put this, because while I respect sex workers, he prostituted himself in order to make the money to return to the United States.
At least he worked for his money. At least he worked for it. It might not be the safest of means or the smartest of means, but he worked for it.
But on his return to the United States in 1989, he did not return to his home city, because even though he was born in National City, he was raised in San Diego. He decided to go to a place that I actually covered before when I covered Harvey Milk. He went to the Castro district in San Francisco.
Ah.
And look at the date, 1989. What is the one thing that was going on in the country, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, in 1989?
The AIDS epidemic?
Yep.
Yeah.
AIDS is going to become AIDS is going to be a pivotal point in this. But I'm going to let you know he never got AIDS. Okay? But AIDS is going to be a pivotal point in this later. So now let's move to his adult life. This man became pretty much a chameleon. He was bright, talkative, and intelligent, but he didn't stand out, and he can easily get lost in a crowd. This allowed him to kind of create different aliases and personas. Because if you look at him, you could kind of look at him and go, well, he could be Filipino, he could be Italian, he could be Hispanic.
Yeah.
He could even be Muslim.
I don't know about that.
Because of how he looked. What?
I don't know about that, but...
Maybe a little bit, but the point is, because he kind of doesn't look... I'm not trying to be stereotypical, just because he just kind of looks like Play-Doh. He can He can make himself into anything he wants.
Yeah, I'll give him that. Definitely does look very malleable.
He ended up doing something that is kind of creepy, because two people wouldn't get the same name if he introduced themselves. He had different aliases, and I'm just going to go through a couple of them. I'm not going to go into detail about these except for one, because it's fucking weird. But he would go by the name Andrew De Silva, for example, or Drew Cunningham. And I don't know how to put this one. Or he would go by the name of a Navy officer, claim that he was a Navy officer, named Lieutenant Commander Andrew Cummings. Can I skip this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are way too many stereotypical jokes you can make about this. I don't want you canceled. I don't want me canceled. So we're just going to skip past this.
Let's do that.
But the funny thing is, it got to the point with all these aliases that even he had a hard time keeping track of who knew him as who.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
When you make a web of lies, sometimes it's very hard to figure out which string you need to pull for which people. You lose yourself and get stuck.
Yeah. And sometimes he would actually work. There was a couple of times he had a job, but people would ask, why is there a Navy lieutenant working at like I'm just going to make the joke Sizzlers because Pidgey's here, so I might as well. Why is there a Navy commander working at Sizzlers? It would be stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really quickly, most of the time he wasn't working. He relied on his sugar daddies. He would come up with an alias, like the ones I named, and he would come up with a static story. For example, he would say something like, I am Hispanic, my mother is very Catholic, and I got kicked out because I told them I was gay. And the one thing that he did do, and that I will give him credit for, he never hid the fact that he was gay. That's the only thing I'm giving him credit for, because everything else is just fucked up. But he knew himself, that one part about himself. Wow, I just trying to...
He was out and proud.
Out of that hole. Yeah. I was trying to dig myself out of that hole. And hello, Devil Pup. And pretty much, this is how he would basically play on wealthy white men's frickin' emotions, getting sympathy, and he would find rich men to take care of him. And he would buy stuff like BMWs. In fact, BMWs was his favorite car.
Not
he
surprising.
Would go on vacations. He would go ahead.
Go ahead and finish that thought.
He would go on expensive vacations, and he would pretty much live a lavish lifestyle for somebody who didn't work a day in his life.
It's usually what happens when you don't work for your money. You get it from other people as gifts and stuff. Oleander Rainbow says, Andrew looks like a Dollar Tree Joseph William Kennedy. JWK is important because plutonium. I don't understand that reference, but okay, cool. Aquagulp says, is this the history of a serial killer? I'm getting those vibes. Yes, this is a true crime episode where we are covering Andrew Cunanan, most known for killing Versace.
Yep. And I'm going to go into examples of his attention, or his pay attention to me daddy.
His attention whore status.
Yeah.
His attention whore antics.
I'm going to tell two stories, I'm going to only tell two stories. Oh, these allegedly happened. Allegedly. Not known if these are actually true, but they are well-known stories throughout the true crime sphere. Allegedly, he met Gianni Versace years before he would end up murdering him.
That's not shocking. I would assume at that time that the gay community was very tight-knit and very underground, so it wouldn't be surprising if they hadn't met at some point.
I'm not going to go into the details of the story, but according to the story, Gianni Versace only spent a couple minutes around Andrew before he decided he really wanted to get away from him, and literally turned to his security guy and went, "Get me away from this guy now." I don't blame him.
Yeah. Neither do I, actually.
And the other story was he allegedly met Lisa Kudrow at a party.
Who?
And this one's funnier. Lisa Kudrow played on Friends. She played Phoebe on Friends.
Ah.
Apparently, Lisa Kudrow spent an hour trying to get away from him, but he kept fucking popping up right next to her, to the point where she excused herself to go to the bathroom and then slipped out of the party.
I would too. He probably would give me the creeps.
What didn't help was that he also, when he didn't have sugar daddies, he sold drugs, but he also did them all the time.
That's not surprising at all either with the gay scene at that time.
Now, if you could look at him right now, what do you think his drugs of choice were? And I'll tell you how right you are.
It's probably coke.
There's one.
What else was big in that time? Maybe meth? I don't think so, though. I don't think it was as big at that point. Weed?
His drugs of choice were cocaine, painkillers,
Okay.
and meth.
Oh, alright. Well, there you go.
In fact, he was a huge meth head. His drug use led to paranoia at times, and it just made him a worse person to be around.
He doesn't
Also-
look. He doesn't look like. He doesn't look like the meth kind of I get the painkillers and the cocaine I can see, but if drug of choice was methamphetamines, for long periods of use, usually they don't look that together.
Nope.
They look pretty raggedy.
But somehow he was able to keep himself together. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
I don't know. I have no idea. Because
But it was his meth use that. Sorry.
Because if you've seen people who heavily use meth for long periods of time, it is scary. The before and after.
Yeah, but it was his meth use that pretty much could have led to the misunderstanding that pushed Andrew Cunanan to become a spree killer.
Yeah, that would do it. Yeah.
You see, he went to the doctors one time because he had an infection that wasn't clearing up. So the doctor asked him if he had HIV. And for some reason, he thought the doctor was telling him he had HIV. And so he snapped pretty much. But there's another reason why he snapped. And it involves his first victim. So let's get into the spree killings of Andrew Cunanan. Warning. Sorry.
Before we do that, I want to point out why that doesn't seem that little detail that you told me doesn't seem surprising, that it would make somebody snap. At that time, if you got or contracted and were diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, your life expectancy dropped drastically. They didn't have the kind of medication they do now to put you in a status of not necessarily being negative, but it did not prolong your life like medication nowadays would. So at that point, it was basically you're dead. You had maybe like 5 years, if you were lucky, when it came to the AIDS and HIV viruses. So you would probably stop giving a crap. You'd freak out and you stop giving a crap.
Now, my theory is that caused him to go over the edge. But there is one instance that caused him to snap. And before I get into that, I'm going to do a warning. This is going to get graphic. A couple of these are really fucking graphic. So I'm going to not sugarcoat it, but at the same time, I'm not going to go into overly graphic detail. Okay? So we're going to go into the first two murders because they're linked. First is Jeffrey Trail. He was a former Navy officer who was also gay. And he was friends with Andrew Cunanan. But let's face it, this was the 90s. If you were in any branch of the military and you were gay, you could get kicked out of the military. And he didn't want that. And he was in the closet, but he didn't look like what the 90s would say a gay person looked like. He looked average Joe. And I'm glad we have gotten over that fucking stereotype, because I grew up seeing that stereotype way too fucking much. But guys like Jeffrey Trail break that fucking stereotype, and I'm so fucking happy we don't have it.
Yeah.
But Cunanan was deeply in love with Jeffrey Trail. But Jeffrey Trail had no feelings towards Cunanan, and he knew him as Andrew Cunanan. He considered him a friend. Trail didn't want a relationship with Cunanan because he already had one. But unknown as to why, Cunanan thought that after he broke up with the relationship he was in, that Trail was now seeing one of Cunanan's exes, who was also friends with Trail, which was a guy named David Madison. So, in Cunanan's mind, the guy that he was deeply in love with pretty much ghosted him, brushed him aside to go out with Cunanan's ex. Do you see why he could have snapped? Very fucking easily.
Yep.
So, to me, this is what caused Cunanan to snap. That he thought Madison and Trail were in a relationship. And on April 26, 1997, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Cunanan beat Trail to death with a hammer in front of David Madison. He then took Trail's gun, which is a Taurus pistol. That will become relevant later. But Trail's body would be found later, rolled up in a carpet and stuffed behind a sofa. He then took David Madison hostage. And it's speculated that Cunanan and Madison stayed in the same apartment that Trail was killed in for 2 days after Trail's murder, which means they were staying in the apartment with Trail's body in there. On May 2nd, they were spotted in Madison's Jeep heading north, and Madison's body was found the next morning at Rush Lake, Minnesota. He had been shot in the back of the head and in the back. And now to Lee Miglin. And this one is the most brutal one. Now, there's speculation that they knew each other, but the family of Lee Miglin said that they had never heard of Andrew Cunanan, so no one knows if Lee Miglin knew Andrew Cunanan. But because the bodies of Madison and Trail were found, news spread looking for Cunanan and tried to bring him into custody. Knowing that the police were looking for the Jeep, Cunanan on May 3rd in Chicago, Illinois, murdered 72-year-old Lee Miglin. Miglin was found with his hands and feet bound. His entire head was wrapped in duct tape. He was stabbed 20 times with a screwdriver. His throat was slit with a hacksaw, and Cunanan stole his car.
Pause.
Pause.
Notice this isn't not just a spree of killings, but there's an escalation of violence with each of them. It's like a fever pitch. Somebody going into a fever pitch. And there had to have been some personal, not necessarily that he knew the person, but there's had to have been some personal emotions that went into that if you were going to kill somebody that violently.
I do have a theory about it, but like I said, it was so brutal that it led many people to believe that it was a crime of passion, though Miglin's family claimed that Cunanan and Miglin didn't even know each other, because Cunanan. Sorry.
They probably didn't.
I have my explanation is that since he was a huge drug user, certain drugs could explain the brutal nature of it.
Yeah.
And now my cat is meowing at me.
Hi, kitty.
Walking around with her toy in her mouth, meowing with it in her mouth.
She wants you to see what she killed. She wants you to see her trophy, her toy.
Yeah. Well, instead of going straight to Florida, we take a detour to Pennsville Township, New Jersey, where William Reese was shot in the back of the head on May 9th.
Oof.
And he was 45 years old. So that's why I think it was the fact that he was doing drugs, was the fact that you go from semi not brutal to severely fucking brutal back down to a headshot.
Yeah, he's it's like a roller coaster of emotions for me. He might be even using different drugs.
Yeah.
Because I know there are different drugs that have different reactions.
After this initial killing spree, Cunanan made his way to Miami, where he was staying at different ritzy hotels. But he really wasn't done with his spree yet, because let's face it, he has one more person.
Yep.
And at 8:45 a.m., Gianni Versace was returning home from the news cafe where he bought some magazines. Cunanan walked up to him and fired the Taurus handgun that he stole from Jeffrey Trail, hitting him in the back of the head once and in the left cheek. A witness had tried to catch him, but he was unable to, and Versace was pronounced dead at 9:21 a.m. on June 15th, 1997. And if you don't know you probably know the brand Versace. Gianni Versace was pretty much the person who started the brand. Very big, high-fashioned icon. But he had this habit, since he lived in Miami, to not really worry about things. He didn't have security or anything. He just kind of went and did his own thing. And he was very much loved by the community. And again, my cat is meowing at me. I don't know why Artie is meowing, but if you can hear that, my cat is meowing.
I can't hear anything, so you're fine. I can't hear it. Aqua says, not gonna lie, this is giving me inspiration for a serial murder story arc to place in a modern fantasy horror tabletop RPG setting I'm working on. Nice. Do it. Do it.
So now we're gonna come to the tragic end of Andrew Cunanan. After Versace's death, there was a manhunt for him. Police had found Reese's stolen car in a parking garage, and a week after the death of Versace, Cunanan had seemingly vanished out of in thin air. That was until a caretaker for a houseboat went to check on it. The owner was away on business. The caretaker noticed that there was a lock missing on the front door, so he prepared to walk in. As he grabbed the door handle, he heard a gunshot. So he called 911, and the police soon arrived. And then there was a standoff, where they basically cut electricity, and they waited around for 4 hours. And they shot tear gas in the houseboat. But when they stormed the houseboat, they found Cunanan's body in the master bedroom in only his boxers, face up on the bed, the Taurus on his stomach, with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The gunshot wound that the caretaker heard was Cunanan hearing somebody coming and taking his own life. What happened was he had been hiding out in the boat, but nobody knows how long he had been in the boat, because remember, he was missing for a week.
Yeah.
The caretaker apparently checked the houseboat every other day. It is possible that he was only staying there for the last couple of days, but it's also possible he was staying there and keeping himself hidden. But the paranoia finally got to him.
Probably.
And the caretaker... To this day, nobody knows his motives. It's only speculation. But my opinion is that the first person he killed was what caused him to snap, because he loved the person. He didn't leave a suicide note. The only thing left was a trail of carnage and death in his wake. And that is the story of Andrew Cunanan.
Yikes. So, from what I understand of what you described to us, my theory is he both thinking that he had HIV or AIDS, and that already puts you in a place where you're like, I don't care about anything anymore. And then losing somebody by your own hands that you love through means of or in conjunction with drugs, probably sent him over the edge and into a frenzy of binging and aggression towards the world.
It's just sad that Versace had to die for this.
It is. Oh, it is. Absolutely. But...
Or anybody, for that matter.
Oh, yeah. I think it was a mix of all that stuff that just destroyed this person's ego. Because from what I could tell, knowing that you might go out and all of your illusions of grandeur going into the toilet with his kind of personality, you got to take it out on the world, man. That's what it sounds like. Hey, Tendo, welcome.
To me, it's like this. Same as you, I think that the thought that he had HIV. By the way, during the autopsy, they proved that he didn't have HIV.
Yeah.
He was a heavy drug user. He thought he had HIV. The man that he really had affection for, the one that he said was the one that he would stop getting sugar daddies for, to settle down and stuff like that, is, for some reason, even though the two were actually friends too, Madison and Trail, he for some reason thought they were together, and seeing his ex, Madison, with the man that he wanted to throw everything away for, made him snap.
Yeah.
And at that point, the whole entire world doesn't fucking matter. Lee Miglin is the one that fucking gets me, though.
Yeah, it's violent. It's extremely violent and volatile. It all goes back I talk about criminals and serial killers. I think about the three things are the pillars of determining whether or not you become this kind of person. Biology, psychology, environment.
He had all three.
Oh man, I can go into what all three of those were if everybody in the chat would like me to. I'm using my degree here. I'm using my degree here. Okay, so biology. We already know that his dad is a psychopath, a sociopath. Clearly did not give any fucks about his family. So there's your biology there. Psychology. Growing up as a kid with that biology setting, or that biological background, you're already predisposed to having behaviors of lashing out as a kid. And his compulsive lying is part of that. He had illusions of grandeur. He's probably had narcissistic personality disorder because he was so into himself. And then you got environment. He's gay in a time in history where being gay was not okay. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. All jokes aside, though. Drugs are rampant everywhere. He's around people who probably didn't have his best interests, and he didn't have his best interests with anybody either. So if you put all those things together, you have a perfect storm for somebody who could become a serial killer. And he did.
Yeah, and
it's looking at that, it makes all the sense.
And the thing is, there's not very many books on the subject. There's like 2 of them, which I don't have. And the thing is, there's the only real thing that you can find is the American Crime Story, the assassination of Gianni Versace, on a freaking, I think it was on FX. I can't remember. It's the same people that make American Horror Story.
I think it was on Netflix.
Oh, it could be.
Let me go verify that.
Either way, that's really the only thing, and that's not fully accurate at all.
No.
Man, but this guy was a dude who fucking just snapped. And yeah, everything Madame Hellfire said It's true. During that time,
It's getting nice
I remember
out, eh?
growing up
I
in
didn't
the
really need
90s,
the parts.
and little bit of backstory. My family was highly homophobic at one point, where we would freaking
Yeah, it's
joke about those
Netflix.
things. Okay, it was Netflix.
Yep.
We would joke about those things, and it took me meeting somebody in high school that was gay to realize that those jokes hurt.
Yeah.
And I made a huge. I tried to understand the person better and try to make huge leaps into bettering myself. So that's why I don't make those jokes anymore. That's why I'm glad that the stereotype of what a gay man is or what a gay woman is, all that shit is completely fucking gone because that has been years in the making.
Yeah.
If you guys were alive in the 90s, you would know how prevalent it was. They were picking on it in
Oh, yeah.
wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just
It's-
glad that those stereotypes are gone.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
I wouldn't necessarily say stereotypes. I would say stigma.
yeah, that's stigma. But Gianni Versace was also a gay man.
Yeah.
And he was a fashion icon. And we lost him. And I don't know how the brand Versace is now. I'm more of a person who looks at Gucci and go, wow, that's a lot of cool shit. But Versace was a huge name in the 90s. I don't know if it still is today.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But this dude was amazing when it comes to creating art with clothing.
And he was taken too soon.
Yeah, and it's because he just wanted to live a normal fucking life. He didn't want to be seen as a celebrity. He just wanted to go to a newsstand, pick up magazines he was interested in, go home, and prepare for the day. And this man killed him. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional when it comes to that because honestly, I don't like hearing about people who are trying to do good in the world being cut down too soon.
It's never a good thing, and it's never easy to swallow when innocent people are harmed because others are not good people.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Trail. There's something I do want to talk about with Jeffrey Trail really quick. His family didn't know he was gay. The Navy didn't know he was gay. But he didn't really hide it either. He had a boyfriend. He dated around. He was friends with Cunanan, who knew him. He knew him as just Andrew Cunanan. He was friends with David Madison. He had no interest in David Madison. He didn't have any interest in Andrew Cunanan. He was just a nice person. He was a high school football player, joined the Navy, and was just trying to find his way in life. I cannot remember anything about David Madison, really, except for that I think he was slightly wealthy, but because he owned his own business. Lee Miglin was retired, and his was way too freaking brutal. And the last guy, I can't remember his name right now, something. Sorry, I just closed my notes.
No,
Hang
you're fine.
on. I'm pulling back up my notes. But the last guy in New Jersey was just a caretaker of a freaking cemetery. So, William Reese, he was just a caretaker in cemetery.
Mm.
And all these people were left. All these people's families were left wondering what the fuck caused this dude to snap.
I mean, it's pretty obvious when you look at it now.
Yeah.
But
There's a really weird thing when it comes to this case too. There is somebody that made basically an erotica novel based off of this.
that's not surprising.
It's just fucking weird.
It's weird, but it's not surprising. You have people don't just glamorize in some way serial killers and criminals, but there are people who fetishize it. Just take a look
there is
at
something I forgot. Sorry.
Just take a look at the Night Stalker, Ted Bundy, at a litany of other serial killers who had just massive fan bases for some fucking reason. It's gross, but people do it.
There is also something that, since we have a little bit of time, I can discuss it if you really want to. It's a little bit of lost media, but people don't know if it exists or not.
Okay.
But Andrew Cunanan, before he did all this stuff, claimed that he was in a porno.
That wouldn't shock
Nobody
me.
has found this. Wouldn't shock me either, but nobody has found anything about this. And hello, Silent Night. Nobody has found any copies of it, and it's like, it's supposed to be a really hardcore pornography. So, I am hoping it doesn't exist. I really do.
It's probably a lie.
But there are people that are actively seeking this thing out.
Not surprising.
Nothing is ever surprising.
No, not in this world. Not in this kind of field of yeah. But I don't think either he's lying, or I think if it did exist, it no longer does. Because unless you are part of like a really big company that does this sort of stuff, that's 1980s footage is not going to be kept well. It probably degraded to the point where it's unusable or unsalvageable.
I just know that's all I have for it.
Yeah.
Andrew in an adult film would not be shocking if it's real. I can only hope it lacks a mustache. I am too.
I don't think there'd be that's more the 70s, not the 80s. But yes, yeah.
But just looking at him, I would rate him having a mustache as -1 Tom Selleck out of 10.
I don't think I saw any pictures of him with the mustache, so I doubt that he had one. But yeah, looks like we've covered it. I will be. I'll start closing out. But you said that you're streaming again on Wednesday on your channel.
Yep, True Crime Wednesdays, where I'm going over the Idaho 4 case and the Delphi murders.
Oof. And then you'll be on Saturday, and I will be on Sunday with Strictly Patrick. We're going to talk about Christmas horror movies. And stuff like, and Krampus and stuff like that. I don't think I will be doing a Halls of Horror until the new year. I may or may not do one on Christmas Eve early in the morning. Don't quote me on that, because something could come up. I don't know, but at the moment, that might be possible. And if I do, it would just be finishing up the Mandela catalog so that I can move into something else. And I do plan on bringing K-Huck back on next month. I think it's the 6th. Yeah, the 6th. To continue covering Greylock tapes. So look out for that. Ooh, last thing, and then we'll close it out. I also am looking to do a variety stream to do more Jackbox / Cards Against Humanity in January. It's probably going to be the 15th because that is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and I will have that day off. So look forward to that, maybe. Other than that, I think we're about done. Let's say goodbye to everybody, Knox.
Peace be with you and have a lovely Christmas.
Merry Crimbus, people. Bye.
Bite me one time. Bite me twice. Oh, that's rather nice. Frankenstein, freaks and grunge. Scream out loud, you're out of love. left beside